Thank you so much for coming out to this special tribute screening conversation about Frank Silvera. So I'm going to say a little bit about him. We are going to then roll a short clip that was made by the Frank Silvera's Writers Workshop in California. Then we're going to screen Killer's Kiss, and then we're going to have a conversation with Garland Lee Thompson from the Frank Silvera's Writers Workshop in California. We're going to have him up here on the screen. And then we're going to have a couple of reflections from his daughter, Linda, who's here. So let's get started. We're really excited about this. My cousin Chris, who's in the audience as well, said to Alison and I a little while ago, like, you're doing stuff on Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte and all these other amazing Black actors who are activists during the 60s, and you've never really done anything about Uncle Frank. And we're like, oh my gosh, that's right. We never really thought about that. So it's the 50th anniversary of his passing, and we want to make sure that we make this an annual event. So this is you're here, the first inaugural Frank Silvera tribute. Frank Silvera was a man of profound presence on stage, on screen, and in life. He was born in Kingston, Jamaica, and raised in the United States. He carried with him a richness and heritage in the depth of perspective that he brought to every single role that he played. He worked steady in an era where roles for Black and Afro-Caribbean actors were limited, often stereotyped, and often denied. With resilience and brilliance, he carved a path through Hollywood and Broadway, becoming known for his powerful portrayals of complex characters in films like Viva Zapata, Mutiny on the Bounty, and The Appaloosa. Often cast in ethnically ambiguous or ethnic roles, Silvera used his performances to inject dignity and dimension where the scripts often failed. In the early 1950s, a young unknown Stanley Kubrick turned to Silvera for his first two narrative films, Fear and Desire. Silvera's performance anchored an experimental war story that hinted at Kubrick's future genesis. And in Killer's Kiss, he played a menacing nightclub owner with the kind of quiet, dangerous energy that only a true master in his craft could deliver. Silvera was one of the only professional actors that Kubrick worked with early on, bringing gravity and depth to otherwise rough around the edges projects. Their collaboration showed Silvera's ability to elevate the young director's work, and Kubrick's willingness to cast Black and Afro-Caribbean actors at a time when Hollywood largely ignored them. Yet it was not only his on-screen work that set him apart, it was his off-screen vision and advocacy. And in 1965, recognizing that there was a glaring lack of opportunity for Black actors, Silvera co-founded the Theater of Being in Los Angeles. This landmark institution offered a vital platform for African-American artists, including then unknown Bea Richards and the young playwright Charles Gordon. Silvera's legacy was inseparable from the larger struggle for equality and representation in the arts. He was a man ahead of his time, refined, bold, and unrelenting in his belief that great art could and should emerge from all people. His tragic death in 1970 at the age of 55 cut short a career still rich with potential, but his influence lives on in every stage production, film, and performance that seeks to tell a fuller story, a more inclusive story of humanity. So we're excited to bring to you this piece of Frank Silvera's early work with Stanley Kubrick, and we are very excited to have a discussion that will follow afterwards. So, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the short and enjoy Killer's Kiss, and we'll be back to talk to you. And there he is. Garland, can you hear us?
I can.
Hello.
Hello.
Bravo technology. Wow, you're huge on the screen. Well, we all just finished watching Killer's Kiss, and Frank Silvera's role in that, and sort of wanted to get your thoughts and reflections on that. I know that we're going to be talking in a little bit about the workshop and everything, but we were talking a little bit before about how Stanley Kubrick and Frank Silvera came together and then both of the early, parts of their careers on film. And he was, sort of, Uncle Frank was sort of a go-to for Stanley Kubrick in those first couple of films, and talked about how he was one of the first, one of the only directors who were working with black actors at a time when people weren't. So do you have any reflections on that?
Well, I think that's absolutely right, and I think that just goes to show you when it comes to Stanley Kubrick how forward-thinking he was, even at a time when people were not thinking about working with actors of different kinds of actors, of different diversity, black actors, brown actors, etc. So I think that was, and I think that was very much a fateful time for Frank, coming after Viva Zapata, his lead role as General Huerta in that, which brought him to the attention of a lot of folks, and then coming in with Stanley, I think it was just a great matchup. It was a great time for both of them, and they were both still kind of early in their careers. Maybe Frank was a little bit further down the road, but still early in his film career, and so was Kubrick. And in Frank, I think my guess is that Stanley Kubrick found an actor who was just so well-rounded and so talented and willing to really go there where Kubrick needed him to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was really evident in this film. It feels like there was a lot of also sort of improvisational work that was going on. I know that this was a film that Kubrick wiped away all the audio and then redubbed it. Because he didn't like the way it sounded, and so he got everyone back in the studio. And one of the things I think they talk about this film is that Frank Silvera had the best, sync between his dubbing and his actual acting work.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I mean, that comes from I believe that comes from his theatrical training. He had a very, very strong, solid theatrical training and career before he got into films, and that helped him transition, and he brought those skills with him to the film industry, and so he was able to really, because as a theatrical actor, you learn to really tune into details and to really listen and to really be there, and I think those skills all helped Frank immensely, and I know Stanley was happy to have that kind of accuracy.
Yeah, and so after these two films that he did with Kubrick, he went on to have this other amazing career in other spaces in Hollywood, and I think that one of the things that people don't know, although the video that we watched before said that he started his career in New York, but he actually started his career in Boston, right?
That's right. That is right. First is because, of course, as you know, that's where he grew up. And so, as my understanding, that it was in school, in high school, he began to know about theater and get into it and get into acting. And then he kind of went from there and started doing local work. And then, as all actors who were in the theater, who wanted to have a career in the theater would do at that time, if you wanted to have a real career, it meant you had to go to New York. So Frank made his way down there and really connected with some wonderful companies, some wonderful people there, and just took it and ran with it, and just went from there and went on to have, like you said, an incredibly amazing career, not only on the stage, but then later on in Hollywood.
Right, because I think what a lot of people don't understand is that from 1935 to 1939, there was the Negro Theater here in Boston. It's where black actors, and they had a Yiddish theater, an Italian theater, an Irish theater, and a Negro theater in Boston. It was one of the few cities to have a black theater program in the 30s. And I know when I tell people that who come here to work at the Huntington or anywhere else where they were actually on stage working, people are shocked and thinking, what? Why would they pick Boston? There was a thriving black creative community here in Boston during that time. And so that's where sort of Uncle Frank got his teeth cut.
Yeah, absolutely. He worked with the New England Repertory Theater there, and doing Shakespeare, Macbeth, Othello, as well as The Emperor Jones. So he did some really, really tough work, really work that really demands a lot from an actor. And yeah, absolutely, the whole New England scene, absolutely, people don't understand, certainly back then too, places like Boston, Philadelphia, other cities, they were trying grounds before folks went to Broadway, before productions went to Broadway. So there was a lot of talent in those cities, and certainly in Boston, absolutely, a large Black community there.
So before we sort of move on to his legacy and how the Frank Silvera's Writers Workshop, that you've been keeping that going, and the Theater of Being and the work that Uncle Frank was doing out in LA, we'd love to hear some reflections from his daughter, Linda, who's here with us in the audience. You know, you grow up with celebrity parents. You have no idea that they are. And, you know, we were talking to Linda before this, and we were like, did you meet Stanley Kubrick? Like, did you go, like, she's like, I don't know who they were, you know? And oftentimes we don't. So we want to hear just a little bit from her. So, and then we'll get back to this. I don't know that you can see her, Garland, but she gives you a virtual hug.
First guest, Garland, virtual hug to you.
Hi, Linda. The hug is mutual.
So glad to see you, and I'm so glad to be here. And I do want to share, when these films came out, I was a toddler. I was young, and I wasn't able to go see them. And I was sharing that, to me, he was Daddy. I did not know what was happening. And when he was going to rehearsal, I thought he was going to work like everybody else's daddy. So that was probably until I was in my mid-teen years before I even knew how important my dad was. So, and I also found out through someone else that this movie, there were no stand-ins. These guys were doing all this stuff on their own back in those days. So it's powerful, powerful. But I just wanted to share that I'm glad to be here, and I'm thankful that this is my family, and this is also my hometown, so glad to be here.
Thank you, Linda. We are so happy to be here too. Okay, so we are excited that you're here, and Linda also brought pictures if you want to see her afterwards with her dad. But Garland, let's talk a little bit about how we're carrying his legacy forward. I mean, one of the things that, you know, Alison and I talk about is, you know, as we run this festival and as we curate this festival, and I've been doing it for 27 years, and Alison's been with it for 10 as a co-director, but even before that, and think about, wow, like we're doing sort of the same thing that he did in terms of the Theater of Being, or offering opportunities, and you know, for actors of color or writers or directors. So can you just talk a little bit about the workshop and the Theater of Being that you all are doing there, and how maybe we can help support that work?
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled that Linda is there, and that we get to share this time together with you and Lisa. So the Frank Silvera Writers Workshop was founded in 1973 by my father, Morgan Freeman, Billy Allen Henderson, and Clayton Riley. And they were all very, very much in the Black theater world. My father got to meet Frank in the 1960s in Los Angeles, when he was at first trying to have a career in Hollywood himself as an actor, and then transitioned into theater, and found Frank in his Theater of Being and began to work with him. Frank became a mentor to him, and he got to work with him for a number of years before then he moved on himself on to New York. But Frank was very much considered, for people like my father, people like Morgan, like Billy, like Clayton, was considered very much a kind of an OG, if you will, a godfather. He was kind of like our fearless leader, you might say. He was a huge supporter of the Black community and Black actors, writers, and directors, and I believe that's one of the reasons why he created his Theater of Being, because he wanted to create more opportunities for those folks, for his community, as he was well aware of the lack of opportunities at that time for people of color. And so Theater of Being was a place that he championed what was then considered kind of a new style of acting, which was more realistic, which was more natural, and it was a place where people of color could come and just tell stories about what it's like to just be, right? Not be a chauffeur, be made, be a thug, a hustler, a pimp, or whatever, but just to be, right? To be a person, to tell more real stories about the community. So this was very attractive to a lot of people. So he was highly regarded and highly respected for it. He poured a lot of his own money into his productions, brought Amen Corner to Broadway for the very first time, and really put his heart and soul into it. So the community very much respected him, and I think very much loved him. And he was a mentor to my father, as I said, and my father was very close to him, cared for him cared for him very deeply. So when Frank died in 1970, for those of you who don't know, he passed in 1970. It was a tragic at-home accident with his garbage disposal, trying to repair, I believe, his garbage disposal, and had an unfortunate electrocution. But in 1970 that happened, so a couple years later, that truly affected my father, and so a couple years later he found himself, he was a playwright himself, black playwright, but really kind of know where to go take his work to develop it and to bring it out. And he was not the only one. There were other playwrights like himself, and there were other people, other actors and directors, very thriving black community in New York at that time. And so they decided to go DIY. So they created the Frank Silvera Writers Workshop. My father was able to convince everybody to form it in honor of Frank and the work that he did and the support that he gave to other black actors, writers, directors, and black creatives in general. So this was to honor him. He was always about giving opportunities wherever he could to people, even at the expense of his own fortune, his own finances. So in that spirit, since they were going DIY and creating this for themselves, Dad was able to get folks to name it in honor of Frank, to keep his legacy going and to remember him so that we don't forget him, because his career, what he did, the work that he did, he broke down barriers, he opened doors. You know, Killer's Kiss is not only important as the second film of a major film auteur, but also it portrayed the very first black the very first interracial kiss between a man and a woman, a black man and a white woman, on screen in film. That never had been done before. So Frank was all about breaking down barriers, as I know it, and opening doors for people. And so, as he had done so for my father and other people, Dad wanted to honor him and honor his legacy and keep that work going. And also there was a great need for it too, because in 1973, when the workshop was formed, there was nothing at all like the workshop. And for those of you who don't know, what the Frank Silvera Writers Workshop has done basically is its mainstay was its Monday night reading series. And the model, and this was long before anybody else was really doing this, the model was to do a reading, a sit-down reading, basically a table read without the table. Scripts in hand, actors sitting in chairs on a stage reading it, professional actors, directed by a professional director, with a stage manager to read the stage directions, and then immediately after to have a moderated critique session where the playwright had a chance to listen, to sit and listen, not sit there and get interviewed or get grilled about why they did this or why they wrote that, but to sit and listen to honest feedback from people who don't know them necessarily, who are giving them some honest feedback about what they've just heard and seen, which then the playwrights would then take back and put to use however they saw fit. This hadn't really been done before at that time, so this is a new model. It's now gone on to lots of people do it now. But that was the basic thing, and then later on expanded, services got expanded, technical training division happened, there were screenwriting classes, there were Saturday classes for the playwrights. The Monday night readings were open to the general public. By the way, it was done on Monday night because that was the actors' night off at the time. The actors' theater schedule in New York was Tuesday through Sunday, and Monday night was the only night they had off. So, and they were incredible. There were at times 100, 150 people showing up for these readings. They became a major nexus point in New York City. It started down in the 33rd and 6th Street at the American Negro Theatre, and then moved uptown to Harlem, where it spent the next 35, 40 years.
Garland, that is,
Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, that thank you for that history. That is like so incredible. And the fact that you are still here today doing those readings. I mean, they're not in New York anymore. You've sort of moved it online. It's, you know, because you're in LA, and you've also sort of carried the actors' workshops as well. And we are going to partner with you. Alison, are you coming up to talk about this? We're going to partner with you. So I just, so you've moved out of New York. You're now in LA. And so can you talk a little bit about how you're moving him forward by doing these online classes as well, which we're going to offer scholarships to?
Sure, absolutely. Actually, we're in Oakland. Actually, we're based in Oakland, so we're in Oaktown, so we're a little further north, but still West Coast. And what we've done is we transitioned to online. We were doing. I took over the workshop in 2014 when my father passed on, and not long after we were able to partner with Billie Holiday Theater in Brooklyn, and another long-time Black institution. Where a lot of great people, incredible people came through. And we started to do our readings, at that time, monthly. We couldn't, originally the workshop would be reading weekly every Monday night, and that was basically 50 weeks out of the year. Times were a little bit different, times were a little bit changed. I've been based on the West Coast for about 30 years or so. And so we started doing live readings at the Billie Holiday Theater in Brooklyn. So we kept it alive that way, and then the pandemic hit and of course shut everything down, as you all know. So we transitioned into taking the model online. We had, since even before the pandemic, I and people I'm working with had been talking about taking advantage of the internet and the technology that's out there, right? Mm-hmm. So we decided during the pandemic, well, you know, now is as good a time as any time, and everybody else is doing it, so let's jump on the bandwagon. So we did, and we found that it really actually has opened up doors for us in terms of people that we can work with, and playwrights. We've worked with playwrights from Australia, from Ireland, from all around the country. 2 weeks ago, we had a playwright from St. Louis. We've got another one in Arizona. So, and we've been able to work with actors. Some very noted. We were able to get Garrett Morris in one of our readings, who zoomed in with us from Los Angeles. We've had Ted Lange. We've had other folks like that. So it really opened up the doors for us to be online, to give us access to work with people that we never would have been able to work with had we stayed in person. So we've leaned into it. We've kept it going, and now we started some online classes. We have FSWW online. We're starting just this month, as a matter of fact, we're starting classes in playwriting and screenwriting, and we hope to have one in acting coming up soon. So we really just leaned in. We really built it up. If you go to our website, bfsww.org, you can see the link to our YouTube channel. You can see all the readings we've been doing.
Yeah, and we're going to make sure that we tell everyone about that. But so when, you know, Alison and I and Cousin Chris and Mom and Linda, when we started thinking about how we wanted to honor Uncle Frank's legacy, we wanted to start a workshop here, do a screenwriting workshop or something like that under Angle. But then we met Garland, and so we really want to have this bi-coastal community as we're starting to gear up for what we're going to do in Boston. So this year, in our inaugural year, I'm going to let Alison tell you about how we're going to be partnering with Garland and the Frank Silvera's Writers Workshop in LA.
So, hello everyone. So what we're going to do is we are going to offer scholarships for the actors workshops and the screenwriting workshops starting this year. And the first cohort will come from our Daily Reads program. The Daily Reads program is a program that we have from 12 to 1 every day on Zoom that Andrea Lyman runs, where we pay local actors to read local scripts. So we're going to start with them and have people kind of audition for them and give them a scholarship. And this will go on every year, but we're going to start this year. So that's how we're going to carry his legacy forward here.
Wonderful. Lisa and Alison reached out to me a while back and found us through our website, and it was just so amazing to connect with Frank's family. A little aside on the history, Linda Silvera was a great participant in the early years of the workshop. I'd say in the first 10, 15 years or so, Linda was there. I remember being a teenager and Linda was there all the time, and she was just so awesome to have around. So workshop, we've always tried to have this connection with Frank's family. So to connect with Lisa and Alison and the Roxbury Film Festival is just a continuation of that, and we're so over the moon and thrilled with it.
And as are we. All right, so we are gonna wind down for our next screening, but does anybody have any questions, any thoughts, any ideas even on the film, on that you just learned something about Frank Silvera and Uncle Frank? We'd love to hear your comments or questions.
I was wondering with the screenwriters workshop and the actors workshop, will you have them ever merge so that the actors are reading scripts from?
Will you ever merge the actors workshop and the screenwriting workshop so that the actors can read the screenwriters' work? Is that what you're saying, Andrea?
Yeah, so that they can, I wondered if there'll be a time that they work together.
If there'll be a time when they ever work together
On Zoom.
on Zoom.
I personally think that could be possible, absolutely.
One other question.
What's the correct spelling of his last name?
What's the
S-I or S-Y?
S-I?
S-I?
Oh, they're asking the correct spelling because I think it was, oh, Garland, he was just asking the correct, someone was asking the correct spelling of Frank's last name. Because it was Y somewhere, it's S-I-L. So,
Yes, S-I-L.
yeah.
Did Frank ever direct any feature films or any stage plays himself?
Did Uncle Frank ever direct any features or stage plays himself?
He did direct stage plays. He did direct and produce stage plays with his company, with the theater being. He also, as I said, brought Amen Corner, James Baldwin's Amen Corner, to New York and to Broadway. So he did do theater. I don't believe he did any directing in film. I believe his film and television career was pretty much all acting.
That's his daughter.
S-I-L-V-E-R-A. Anybody else? Questions? Thoughts?
Yeah, I remember seeing an episode of Twilight Zone.
Episode of Twilight Zone.
Oh yes, yeah, that's a good one. You can look him up. Yeah, in fact, I've spoken to people that as someone just told me just about 2 weeks ago when I mentioned that, they were like, "Oh my God, that's one of my favorite episodes of the Twilight Zone." So definitely go check that out. It's a really good one.
Did you know it was Frank Silvera?
Yeah, a little history research, but later on. But it's great. A quick question in terms of the cinematography of the film. I don't know if you know, on the rooftop, it was a bird's eye view. I mean, how did you do that back then?
Oh, we were talking about the shooting of Killer's Kiss and how did they shoot it from, you know, they didn't have drones like Linda was saying, they didn't have stunt men and women, you had to do your own stuff, and a lot of that fighting scene was all improv. It was actually kind of funny at times. But Garland, do you have any thoughts or ideas, or anybody who knew from those times?
Yeah, you know what, you're right. They certainly did not have drones or anything like that. No, they had to do that all manually with people. So that, you know, they had to figure out how to shoot that. So that was Stanley and I believe whoever was, I don't recall who his director of photography was at the time, but Stanley and his camera person, they had to figure out how to do that. And absolutely, at that time, now we live in a time where we have stunt coordinators, intimacy coordinators, with all these coordinators, all these people who come in and specially do special things. But back then, no, the actors had to figure out on their own most of the time what they had to do. So they were the ones who were actually, they were their own stunt coordinators, so they had to figure that out along with the cameraman. So, but it was a much more manual affair.
Yeah, I mean, some of the shots in that, you know, are so quintessential Stanley Kubrick, right? Like coming down the stairs, like it's, you know, beautiful, and you can sort of see how his career has moved forward by just watching this film. And we are going to probably screen Fear and Desire at some point, his first film. So, and which Uncle Frank also is in.
Yes.
Sylvia and
Yes.
Chris, did you have
Yes.
questions? Oh, his television career, Garland, as well.
Yeah, he moved into television in the late 1950s, and he did end up, he transitioned. There were a number of actors as they got older, they transitioned from film into television, and Frank was certainly one of them. And he went on to do a number of shows. I mean, it was he played all sorts of characters. Ironically, very few, if any. Well, I think the only black character he played was in Cotton Comes to Harlem. Yeah, he had a very interesting career in television. Westerns, he did a number of
High
westerns.
Chaparral, that's what I remember growing up.
That was his last
Manolito's
role.
father.
Yep. He was his last recurring role in Hollywood. That's what he. In fact, he was on that show when he passed. So yeah, that was a really good show. So he had a rich career in film, in television as well.
Chris?
No, I was just going to say this is the first time that I've seen Uncle Frank in this movie, and although I was very great actor, but again the cinematography with that what is it, that film noir, that kind of dark.
The film noir, the
Yeah.
first time Chris has seen her uncle in that film.
And it was just that dark movie kind of atmosphere and that seedy look of New York, and it just took me aback. But
Yeah.
I just thought the cinematography was just outstanding. And again, I don't know how they did it back then, but it was just amazing.
Chris is just commenting on the film Killer Kiss and the film noir of it, and just the cinematography and the shots, and seeing that, and seeing Uncle Frank in that.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Film noir is exactly the style and the genre that fits into. It's a beautiful example of it.
Okay, we have two more questions. I'm gonna go here and then back to you.
I just wanted to thank you all for doing this. I grew up in Toronto, and my mom was his first cousin.
Oh.
And so we kept hearing about Frank Silvera and how we saw the movies and how he's dying in the movies.
Yeah, that's right.
And so
She's talking about, she's from Toronto.
Yeah, I lived here in Boston now for the last 20 years with my husband. And so I happened to see this was happening. And I didn't even know Linda, and I had no idea. So we're just meeting for the first time.
Oh my gosh. So she came, she didn't have any idea, she's Uncle Frank's first cousin, and then she and Linda are just meeting for the first time here and seeing. So this is on Uncle Frank's side.
Yeah, this is so
His mother
Jamaica.
is from Jamaica.
And Abel, her last name is Bell, and my grandfather.
And her grandfather
And his mother.
and his mother, or brother and sister. So on Uncle Frank's side. Oh,
What's your lineage?
another relation.
Yeah. My grandfather's brother.
Oh, her grandfather is Uncle Frank's brother. Linda. Now, we're having this is a whole other story. Okay, so get your cameras out, because this is, what was that show on TV? I don't know, one of those talk shows, and like,
This is
six.
your life.
What?
This is your life.
This is your life, right, exactly. All right, so Garland, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for all of you for celebrating the first annual Frank Silvera tribute. Linda, did you want to say something else?
Thank you.
You're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome.
And I also just want to say Garland again, virtual hug.
She just wants to say again, virtual hug, Linda, to Garland.
You should get a family picture at the ROXFILM thing.
We will.
All
We'll do where we can. Next time Garland's gonna come, next year. And we'll do it all in person, the workshop, the theater, we'll do it all in person. So thank you all so much for being with us. It's really special for our family, to share our family with you. What? And now we have new relatives, without doing 23andMe and giving our data to the government. So this is why you come to ROXFILM, to meet your family, to come together, and then just become family with all of us. We appreciate you all. And we have another block of films, 3 blocks of films today. And then tomorrow we end with a bang. And we just so, again, Alison and I and our team, Renee, Dorian, and Leo, and those guys, Loran and Wes and Dylan, we just thank you so much for being here. And we thank them for bringing it forward. All right, Garland, we'll see you. We'll catch up with you later and after the festival, and we'll plan